Now recording. So, our main objective today is to do mouse events in JavaFX. That's like our main thing today. I've started in at the JavaScript A4. I'm like 10 in so far, and it's kind of a mixed bag. Like when the projects are really good, they're really good, and when they're like, you know, the sort of slapped together ones, it's like, ugh. But I shouldn't say that. There have been a few that have been like, you know, these are like definitely good, but you know, they're not the, you know, I put 60 hours into this one, but you know, they're still quite good. But you know, it's kind of like, you know, I don't know, guys. I'm seeing a lot of code that looks generated, and you know, I can't catch it all as plagiarism cases. But let me just say, study for the tests. Fair? Fair enough? I'm probably not talking to anybody in this room, but, you know, the AI won't help you on the test.
Were you going to make an announcement about the zip file for the assignment?
That's true. Let me do that first. Thank you. A5 zip file. Hello, all. Although the assignment document asks for a zip file, please do not waste time attempting to submit one. I have disabled zip file submission on Canvas. Text files only, please. Winky face emoji, Dr. Moore. That should save a certain amount of people wondering. Good. So, mouse events. This is kind of our last topic, actually. Next week we'll be doing exam review. We have another exam review document similar to the test review document. My plan is to do something similar to what we did for the review for the test. Generally people like that format. Did you guys like that format?
No.
Alright, we'll do that again then. So, the concept of a mouse event should not be a new idea to us at this point. We've been using them in JavaScript since, like, I don't know how long it took to get through the HTML, CSS stuff at the beginning of that course to actually get to JavaScript. Maybe like a month in, right? You started really getting into events, right? The concept of a mouse event in JavaFX is highly similar. We just kind of have to relearn what everything's been renamed to, you know? It's kind of like playing any From Software game, you know? You kind of just have to learn what they renamed Titanite, right? So, all of these are mouse events which you have available to you in JavaFX. Mouse pressed, mouse released, mouse moved, mouse dragged, mouse entered, mouse exited. You've got a few ones that kind of like vanilla JavaScript doesn't quite give you. Like mouse events in vanilla JavaScript kind of famously don't have a hover. You have mouse over and mouse out, but you don't have like mouse while on top of, right? That would be similar to mouse entered and exited. Dragged is presumably you click on it and then you drag it. Actually, now that I say it, this doesn't appear to have a hover either, but that might be contained in etc. So, normally you don't need to handle mouse events yourself. That is to say, things like buttons come pre-configured with them. When we have been configuring things to use action events, basically what we're saying is, please use the pre-configured action event that comes with this component type, right? For a button, that's a click. And, you know, I forget if the buttons do something if you hover over them in JavaFX, but if they do, then that's in there as well. So, to add a mouse event handler for a button press to a canvas named C, we include the following line in the start method. C dot add event handler. How similar does that sound, right? To the JavaFX. What is even the JavaScript one? It's like,
Listener, right?
is it add event? It is add event handler exactly, isn't it?
Yes.
Listener.
Yeah. Anyway, mouse event dot mouse pressed. This press handler. So again, the structure here is very similar to how it works in JavaScript. One big difference: this is not a string. This is an enumeration, right? We didn't actually talk about enumerations, did we?
I thought it was like constants.
Sort of. Tell you what, if we have time today, I'll discuss enumerations for you. Then, this is just a reference to a function in the same way that we use for action events, right? So this is really just an action event where you get to select what the action is. Make sense? Very good. The first parameter specifies the event type using static constants defined in mouse event. The second parameter specifies the event handler method that should be called just like the button method set on action. We then create the press handler method, right? It's not sufficient to just reference a function that doesn't exist. You then have to provide said function. This must be void, except a mouse event parameter, and should probably be private. So, if you remember previously, we had action event, right? Action event went there. Now we have specifically mouse event goes there. Knowing what we now know about Java, and does anybody care to guess what the relationship is between an action event and a mouse event?
They both probably inherit from something called event.
Probably, but I think that if we checked the documentation, mouse event is probably a subclass of action event, which would be the superclass. Because if you think about it, right? Let's say we have a button, right? Set on action, that is a mouse click, right? So the mouse click most likely is producing an actual mouse event object, right? But because it's set on action, it's being thumped into the slot of an action event, which would mean that mouse event would be a subtype of action event, right? that make sense? We could check that actually.
Yeah, it's not, I just looked it up.
No? Alright, let's see.
It's what Sam said, it's an event object. It's a type of event.
Mouse event. Alright. Define. Alright, so mouse event. Yeah, some. Okay, you're right, it was event. Everything's inheriting from event. Okay, interesting. There you go. Alright, well, action event. Where's that coming to or from? Well, it doesn't really matter. So they're sibling classes then. They both inherit from a common source. That's disappointing. Oh, that's okay. Just when you think you know a language. So we weren't really using the action events, like the actual object that's returned, very much. But in this case, for mouse events, we are going to want the information that that object contains. You can get pretty far with just me.getButton. That will tell you which button was pressed. Me.getX and me.getY. This will give you the x and y coordinates of the location of the button press. Very good. So, let's build one, shall we? Knowing what we now know. Example code week 11, please. Open her up. There we go, and where is my... Is the JavaFX thing not in here?
No.
Ah, interesting. Alright, well,
There is no substitute demo.
yeah, but I always like to show that the thing can be built from scratch, you know? Now let's see, last time we had that would have been week 7. Let's see, it must be in the week 7 example code. And there it is. Alright, please make an IntelliJ project. There we go. Source, FXGUI template. There we go. Can we run it? Where is it? Come on. Run. There we go. Bloop. There we go. Very good. Oh, let's just make it a good 500 by 600. Make it a little bigger for everybody there. So, So we're going to focus on doing these mouse events for Canvas objects because, you know, A, this will be useful for you for the final assignment, and B, you know, you can move things and reposition things relatively painlessly, you know. So let's create a Canvas object. Hopefully everybody is on to this by this point in the course, but I feel I must remind everyone. The autocomplete will automatically target the java.awt library. If you're not careful to select JavaFX, you'll mess up the import and it won't work and you won't know why. So that's a very important, like, tripping hazard right there. Hopefully everybody knows that by now. Canvas C is equal to, or Canvas C, C is equal to new canvas. Oh man, how do you set the,
Needs a width and height.
yeah, let's give it 500, 500, there we go. Good, good. Yes. Good? A little more?
Okay.
Alright. Now, we need to extract the graphics context. I think that's correct. There we go. And just to test that the thing is working, let's just you know, gc dot draw, or what is it? Rect. There we go. 50, 50, 50, 50. Let's just make sure that it's working. It seems to be working, but let's make sure. Aha! It's not working. Or maybe the draw color is white. Set fill color dot Alice blue. No, still nothing. Okay. Okay, fine. Disappointing to have to go back this far back in the course. Yes?
Is it like fill rect or stroke rect? Is that what it's called?
Oh.
I think it's, yeah, fill rect.
Let's try it. Nope, still nothing.
Did you add canvas to root?
Oh, that's it. There we go.
I think it would be.
Still need that. What is it? Stage dot add.
It's the root. It's the pane.
Oh yes, there it is. Roots dot add.
Get children.
Get children. Yes. Dot add. Right? And then C for canvas. There we go. Let's try her again. And maybe, I don't know, maybe just to be a little bit cautious, put that there. Let's try her again. Whoop. Hey, there we go. Very good. So just because it distinguishes it from the from the non-canvas background, I'm going to position this thing such that the Alice blue background is over the whole canvas. That way you can see it. Make sense? Good. So, now we get to add a mouse event. C dot, can I remember the thing I read just a moment ago? Add event handler. Add event handler, mouse event, not AWT, Java x.scene.input, dot, mouse clicked, sure, comma, and now we need the event handler. Let's call this, comma, 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 that's colon, colon. Click handler, something we need to define. So far so good. So far so good? This shouldn't exactly be revolutionary. It's very similar to things we've already done. So, now, private void click handler, taking a mouse event, me. There we go. So so before we do anything fancy, I have to be really careful not to do your assignment for you at this point, because we're like 3 lines of code away from doing like the majority of your assignment work for you right now. I'm going to try really hard. I'm going to try really hard not to do your assignment for you. Let's just reproduce what they're doing in the example and just print this data to standard output before we do anything else. Let's do the x and y coordinates. By the way, did Gilbert tell you the difference between strings and characters? Yeah? Okay. The difference between a string and a character is like the difference between an integer and an array of integers. Right? Actually, it is exactly that. Strings are character arrays. Many modern languages, unfortunately, have a nasty habit of trying to hide the fact that characters exist from you. Right? It means they're confusing the primitive with the data structure that contains them. Right? JavaScript, for instance. In Python, all characters are strings containing one character, which is not the same thing. Anyway, get y. Save. Let's loop-de-loop. Oh, yep. Oh, whoops. I was a little too aggressive with my clicking. Click, 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 click. Click. There you go. We are clicking around. Make sense? So of course, the next intuitive leap that we must make is to go from this to using x and y for something, right? In our case, we're going to draw lines. We're going to make it so you can draw a polygon using mouse clicks. Yes.
Is mouse dot drag, like you click the mouse down and then move it, is that what, am I right with mouse dot drag?
Well, we can now test the behavior. Mouse dragged. So, yeah, you should think of it as like you're just getting continual click events executing like at a fixed interval so long as the mouse is moving, but as you can see, when the mouse stops, the events stop. Make sense?
Is it still printing it even when you're not holding down the left click button?
No. When I'm not holding down the left click button, it's not a drag. Yeah. I hope this class isn't too much of a drag. That was beneath the dignity of this class. Who are you kidding? Alright. So, in order to draw on the canvas, it would be useful if the graphics context were also an instance variable of the class. GC. Of course, this means that it must not be declared here. That I think is something that if you're going back to like an earlier edition of this sample code, then you might have to make that modification. Save. If we say gc dot stroke line, we can go from some point, let's say 0, 0, to me.getX, me.getY. Well, actually, I'm going to modify that to 250 and 250. The effect will be a little bit more interesting. Not bad, eh? So basically, this is creating a bunch of line objects radiating to the center of the screen, because I set one of the points of this line is always the center of the screen, right? So if you want it to be kind of, I want to be able to draw a polygon, what you have to do is you have to hold in memory the last mouse position that was pressed, and then supply that for the first two arguments here. Right? So, if we say double previous x, double previous y,
Why double instead of int?
printing is doubles.
Oh, I just noticed that, right, okay.
Although now that I look at it, they're all 0.0. So is it being stored as double? That's a good question. If we see the tooltips for this, we should be able to figure it out. Yeah, get x is returning double. So
Okay.
And then after that, after we draw the line, we take previous x and we assign it me dot get x. Me dot get y. If we run that, it didn't do anything. Oh, yeah, well. Previous, yes. Gets me every time. There we go. Polygon line, or a polyline. And not an actual polyline. I'm pretty sure that this would have support for polylines. Yeah. So, like, you can do an actual polyline if you want to. You give it two double arrays as its inputs, one all of the x coordinates, another all of the y coordinates, and it would draw a polyline for you. But, you know, so it goes. But anyway, yeah. Change this to a drag. And you get something that looks like that. Which, let's be honest, is quite similar to your assignment. Yes.
So hypothetically, if we wanted circles or rectangles instead of a line, how would we do that?
Well, I'm sure that anybody as clever as anybody in this class can figure out that you just replace that with fill circle or whatever. Modify the parameters, and Bob's your uncle.
Ooh, error handling and input boxes.
Well, we talked about error handling last class, and I'm not going to go back over material that I discussed that's on tape. So, although I don't think did I publish last class yet? I don't know if I did. I don't know.
I'll check.
I'll publish all the videos tomorrow afternoon. Yeah. Your final assignment essentially consists in filling out the bottom of this pane with a few buttons that control some of the parameters that go into the shapes that you're drawing, along with error handling, and that's the assignment. I hope it doesn't take you all week. Okay? I hope that you have some time for studying. Any questions?
Small one. You said next week there's going to be a review. Is it both classes review?
Yes. Okay. Monday's a holiday, but we have class Tuesday and Thursday, so we're not affected by the holiday. Yes.
I guess unrelated to Java, for JavaScript, are we doing review this week and next week, or just next week, or?
So, what are we doing in JavaScript tomorrow?
Review?
More Ajax stuff?
Like JSON.
Kind of done it to death, though. Oh, I remember. I was going to do a little bit of jQuery for you. Yeah. Introduction to jQuery. Optional topic that we had time to get to because the other class was nailed with multiple holiday days, right? There you go. Yeah, so we're going to do jQuery. It's not going to be on the exam, but still, it's good to know. And then next week we'll have the review for JavaScript. I gotta show you this, alright? I'm so excited. I'm a scientist. Data excites me. One second. Let me show you this. Stack Overflow 2025, the developer survey for 2025 is out. Beep. Do you guys wanna know? Do you wanna be in the know? Do you wanna know what the most popular programming language is according to people who actually program and not bots?
Yes.
It's JavaScript! JavaScript comes in at a great big 66%. It's up 2 or 3 points from last year, actually. Python is like the big winner over last year though. Here, I'll bring up last year's statistics too. There we go. Oh, professional developers. Let's look at what professionals think, okay? There we go. Professionals. There we go. So, this year, JavaScript, according to professionals, is the 68.8% of professional developers use it or have to know it. So you need to know JavaScript. That's compared to 64% last year. HTML, CSS, and SQL, I don't even count as programming languages. Right? They're too dang simple. Python is in 4th place, 54.8. You can see that's quite a significant jump from last year, right? Interestingly, Bash/Shell, 34.2% last year. 48.8% this year, tied with TypeScript. TypeScript, 43% last year, 48% this year. TypeScript's meteoric rise continues. It's been doing this for about 5 years. Do you guys know what TypeScript is? So you know how JavaScript is terrible? One of the reasons it's terrible is it has no functional type system. TypeScript is JavaScript, but it has a type system. Alright? So basically it's got a type checker similar to how Java's type checker works. You write a TypeScript file, you compile it to JavaScript, and then you plug the JavaScript into the browser, and the browser runs it. But it provides lots of the normal sorts of correctness guarantees that a proper language should. It's an attempt to fix JavaScript.
I
Yes.
have a question. Why do you think Bash and Shell is so high up there?
Probably because probably because of what's going on with containers right now. So
The container configuration
yeah.
type things.
Or
Okay.
just okay, alright, hold that thought, because I have to show you another graph, alright? Alright, down, 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 down. Other frameworks and libraries. Other tools. So, they've got this under other tools last year, but Docker. Alright? You guys know what Docker is? Docker is containers. So, okay, this is what we're doing for the next half an hour probably, because this is this might be the most important me talking bit that you'll have this semester in this class. So, do you guys know what a virtual machine is? Yeah? Have you used them before?
Yes.
Little bit?
A little bit.
Even a little bit is good, yeah. So a virtual machine, in general, like even if you have a reasonably lightweight Linux distribution, that is your virtual machine, that thing is probably upwards of 5 gigs. 4 gigs, 5 gigs for a small one, right? For like a standard Linux distribution. Containers are miniaturized Linux distributions that run a single program, right? They are often under 200 megs. Right? Beginning to see the point of these, right? So how cloud is going is like you write your server application, maybe your node application, right? You package it up in a container. You send that container off to the cloud runs the container, and there you go. Because the container is its own operating system, you can configure it however you like, and there is zero configuration required wherever it's going. It just keeps all of its configuration, everything still works. You don't have to manage packages, you don't have to do anything, you just, here's the container, oh, it works, great, right? It's mini virtualization, right? So that's Docker last year. You want to see where it is today, this year? They've put it under cloud development. That's a big jump. I want to see if they put it under other as well, though. That might be. No, they didn't. Okay, so it's under cloud stuff now, which, it's not necessarily kind of similar to programming languages. It's competing with things here which it doesn't actually compete with, right? Like, anybody know what NPM is?
No, you lost that.
What?
Yeah, node package manager.
Yeah, it's the node package manager. That's number 2. So that tells you how popular Node is, right? Amazon Web Services is like a thing, this is the thing you would send your containers to, right? Anybody know what pip is?
It's another package manager.
Yes.
I know it was used it when trying to use Pygame when doing Python.
Yes, it's the Python package manager. Pip is to Python as NPM is to Node, basically. Anybody know what Kubernetes is?
Is that another container thing?
It is a container thing, yes. So here's an interesting thing about containers, right? Tiny modular operating systems that only run one program.
Yeah, it's
Right.
super powerful.
Very powerful, but even more powerful in groups, right? You can, generally when you're running a real application, you have a whole bunch of containers that are all doing different various things. You might have a Node.js web server container. It's connected to a MariaDB container for the database backend. That might, maybe you really like PHP MyAdmin as an interface to deal with your database. Throw a container on there for that, right? I could go on. Have you guys seen the logo for Docker?
Yeah.
It's a whale, but what does he usually have on his back? Containers, right? He's shipping containers. But you'll notice that he has lots of them, right? So basically, I don't know as much about Kubernetes as I should. Basically, Docker Swarm does kind of a similar thing, but it's container orchestration. It's a tool for managing collections of containers. That's what Kubernetes is. I think it's more popular than Docker Swarm, but Docker has had a stupid amount of money poured into it. Because this thing is currently doing to the industry what virtualization did to it 15 years ago. This is the new big cheese, right? Let's just say, if they had, if you were in Docker as a startup and you had stock options, you are a rich person right now. That's what's happened with Docker. It has exploded. There have been a couple of containers, or other things that do containers as well. I want to say Flatpak. There's a Linux. It's not Linux. They're both Linux. That's the beautiful thing about Docker is this thing is Linux. It loves Linux. It wishes Windows were Linux. It has compatibility issues with Windows. That's how Linux it is. Alright? Ooh, I love them. But if you're wondering why Bash scripting has recently increased in popularity, it's probably because Linux has recently increased in popularity, because them damn things, see all of those things? There's a little Tux the Penguin inside each one of them. That's what Docker is. It's a smuggling operation for Tux the Penguin. So yes, Docker. Highly recommend getting into it, but don't get into it until after you've done server side, because you won't have any use for it before you know how to do at least basic server things. Okay? When I eventually do get the dev time to do my Node.js rewrite of server side, it's using Dockers right from week one. Docker containers. Everything's going in Docker containers. Yes. But yeah. Yes. So here's one that's also interesting for you guys. Web frameworks and technologies. Fast API is something I've not heard of, so I'll be looking into it. Strong trend towards using Python for building performant APIs and reflects the overall strength of the Python ecosystem. So Python is starting to try to creep up on JavaScript and eat its lunch. But and I'm interested in professional developers, thank you. So who's that right there at the top? Node.js. Who's second? So you might be saying to yourself, okay, I've heard you say that you want to do server side in Node.js. Why wouldn't you do it in React? They seem to be about equally popular. Does anybody know what React is?
Isn't just a better bootstrap type thing? It's that sort of function?
Is that Facebook's JavaScript thing that blew up? React?
I don't know about that. I actually don't know where it's from, React, but it's a front-end framework. It's not just see, Bootstrap is just a CSS framework, right? Bootstrap, I believe, I haven't I need to improve my React, but which is to say I need to do any of it at all. But my understanding is that it's not just styling. It does JavaScript-y stuff as well, and probably makes a fair amount of Comp 10.259 redundant. In terms of CSS frameworks, the new kid on the block is Tailwind, as I understand it. Although that could probably be, yeah, I would venture to observe that doesn't really seem like Bootstrap's even on this. By the way, this guy right here, Laravel, that's the framework that you get in advanced PHP. We teach Laravel. So yeah, you've got Node, React, jQuery. jQuery is old but still very popular. I'm not quite sure. I think Next might compete with Node in the same space. I think ASP.NET competes with Node. Express is it's a framework for Node. That really should be more, because it makes so easy. Why would you just use Express? That's going to be actually my motto, my running tagline throughout the server-side course once it's converted to Node.js is just use Express. Because it just does the job you want, very painlessly. So yeah, Flask is Flask and Django are Python frameworks. Fast API apparently is as well. Angular is dying a slow death. Here's what that one looked like a year ago. Come on. Come on. Yeah, this is web frameworks. So just to give you a comparison here. Oh wait, professional, there we go. So last year, Node was at 40.7. This year, Node is at 49.1. jQuery is actually up, that's surprising. Yeah, so otherwise things seem to be fairly stable. But Spring Boot has increased, it seems, a little bit. So yeah, so if you want things to learn, right? If you want a list of things that you should learn, Node.js, React, Docker, and GitHub. Or just Git, but GitHub is quite good as well. So let me just show you. Oh, look! On Stack Overflow's survey, Stack Overflow is the most popular community platform. Oh, you don't say! Might be a little bias on that one. Just a touch. Here's what large language models they believe are the best ones. Okay. I'm not expert enough to really comment. Code documentation and collaboration tools. GitHub stands like the Colossus of Rhodes over all of these things. Right? Also, Markdown files as a collaboration tool seems odd to me. But Obsidian is popular now. Wait till they start charging for it. Wikis, oh man. I think if there's one story of this decade, it's the death of wikis. You know? There's one that I wanted to bring to your attention because I think it's kind of interesting and funny. Developer IDEs, all right? So Visual Studio Code is like the behemoth in this space at the moment. But this is like probably mostly because Microsoft foreclosed on Atom. So, you know, Microsoft has kind of shunted a great deal of developers towards Visual Studio Code. Do you guys know the story of Atom? So, it was kind of like GitHub's version of Visual Studio Code, and it was better than Visual Studio Code, but then Microsoft acquired GitHub. Microsoft owns GitHub, by the way, if you're not aware of that. And you know, Microsoft's IDE is Visual Studio, and its spin-off, Visual Studio Code. So they couldn't have two of them, now could they? And this despite everybody, all of the programmer community, it's like, oh, Microsoft, when you buy GitHub, you're not shutting down my favorite IDE, right? And they're like, no, of course we're not going to stab it in the back once we buy it. That's why they bought GitHub. No. Yeah, so Visual Studio Code is very, very popular because Microsoft has done scummy business stuff. Visual Studio is only a little bit more popular than Notepad++. And IntelliJ is actually like higher on this list than I thought it was going to be. But Vim. Vim! Do you guys know what Vim is? Like, okay, Nano is on this list. Do you guys know what Vim is?
Is that the default like editor
Yes.
next to Emacs? Where's Emacs?
Oh, well, I mean, Emacs is the text editor that thinks it's an operating system. Where are we here? Is Emacs on this? I would be very surprised. No. You know what Emacs is even written in? Lisp. Common Lisp. Yeah. Have you ever heard of Lisp?
Never.
Oh. Oh yeah.
You're teaching us so many things though. About limited space, limited CPU.
Lisp, this is what it looks like. Haskell is a successor language to Lisp. Lisp has a lot of braces. It has a lot of braces. You don't have to know Lisp. Don't worry about Lisp. Forget Lisp exists. But what was I talking about? Oh,
Vim.
Vim! Yeah, I gotta show you guys a screenshot of Vim. This is the logo. Alright? It hasn't changed since a long time. This is what Vim looks like. It is a command line tool. I've heard it spoken that like the devs who are like, you know, like ultra tier, they code like in Vim, and Vim is like the best one. But this, you should only use Vim if you can memorize commands. Let's just put it that way. Yep. Alright. Very good. Vim. My goodness. So anyway, Stack Overflow 2025 developer survey. Many of the things which I on a more personal note. Last year, in December, I was at a program of study meeting where I was bringing many of these same points up, and I was saying things like, we need to change to Node as quickly as possible, and we should definitely consider putting TypeScript into, you know, other things as well. And it's like, you know, every single thing I said got more points this year over last year. So, it this was very validating for me personally, so. I love numbers, such a nerd. Okay, so, I'm kinda out of material. You guys might have gathered that. You had a question like half an hour ago. Do you still have a question?
It was more of a suggestion.
Okay, what's your suggestion?
It was for JavaScript.
Okay.
Some of us might not be there next Friday.
Okay.
Could you do the review tomorrow and then do the jQuery next Friday?
Why are you guys not gonna be there on Friday?
Why am I not there?
Yeah. Or is that like a general thing, or is that just you?
Me
Oh, you as well? Okay. Well, we can put it to a vote. Who wants to do the review tomorrow and jQuery the next week?
I'm neutral, so I'm okay with that.
How many people don't care one way or the other? How many people would prefer to do the jQuery tomorrow and the review next week? I'm sorry, but I think you've been outvoted. Okay, we'll do the review tomorrow and jQuery we'll do next week.
Thank you.
You want an impromptu lesson on enumerations?
Yeah, enum. Is that what people call enums?
That is what an enum is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this is what an enumeration is. In IntelliJ, you can actually, if you select Java class, you'll notice that enum is actually just right here, right? You can make an enum. This is a very kind of Java-y way of doing it. Right? So I know how to do them in C. Just give me 2 seconds to look it up. Java enum. Oh yeah, okay. That's easy enough. So you know Java. Most people put that on one line. There we go. So it's like this. Some of you might recognize these. Oop, there we go. Some of you recognize those? Come on! Stupid machine. From Pokemon, right? Yeah. Status conditions. So this is how an enumeration maps. I think it's best understood in the C context, right? I'm beginning to think there's an actual problem with that thing now.
I don't know if it's gonna be just give it a whack, but it's right above me, you might know.
It's a pretty secure bracket.
hard.
So basically, what the computer is doing every time it encounters status.sleep, SLP, it replaces that with a 0 in the code. Anytime that it encounters this, it replaces it with a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. These have numeric values if you actually if you say well, Java might not do this because type checker is a bit more strict in Java, but certainly in like C or C++, if you say like status double equals 0 and it's been set to this, then it works, right? I might have to stop the class just because the projector fails. Nothing's.
Not complicated.
It turns off and look away from it.
So basically, when you have a bunch of like things that are options and you want them written in code as text rather than, you know, as a bunch of numbers, enumerations are what you want to do. Like, basically enumerations are any time you write the following comment. If you write the following comment, you want an enumeration. 0 is equal to sleep, 1 is equal to paralysis, 2 is equal to, you know, freeze, etc. Right? If you are leaving comments for yourself like this, it's like this integer means this, that integer means that. What you actually wanted was an enumeration. Because with an enumeration, you can just say if status, if variable is equal, variable is equal to status dot sleep, right? Now, in C, you can do this without the status dot, right? Let me just show you what enumerations in C look like. Because, like, enumerations are the kind of thing that, like, C got strongly right and nobody else has really needed to revise that much, right? Right? You can see that, like, that looks pretty much exactly like what we just did. It's just got a little bit less Java going on, right?
So the mouse clicked, mouse drag, those are enums.
Yes. Like, in C, you can kind of trick things. If you take an enum and you print it as an integer, it will tell you what integer it is behind the curtain, right? In Java, that's probably a bit more difficult, but maybe not even. But yeah, so, like, over here, right? Like, all caps like that are also typical for enumerations. It's like, if not an enum, then what is that? It's an option, right? But, like, what's the actual data, right? It's not a function, and it's not a variable. JavaScript solves this problem by passing a string in, right? But JavaScript is desperately inefficient. String comparison is expensive. Integer comparison, super cheap. That's why that's the advantage of using, one of the advantages of using enumerations over strings. Because since they're all integers in the sort of under the hood, they compare as integers, which is very quickly. If you're using like strings, particularly long ones, to, you know, tell the thing what options you're trying to enable, it's like, you know, have you guys seen the string comparison algorithm? It goes like this, you know. Say we're comparing these two strings to see if they're the same string, right? First, we say, okay, are these the same? Yes. Move on. 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 Are these the same? Yes, move on. String comparison is very expensive. As opposed to, does 1 equal 1? Yes. Right? So yeah, that's why you would want to use enumerations. You guys know about null termination in strings? Okay. Okay. This is also rapidly turning into an ask me anything. All right.
Well, you should let us ask you fun things then.
Okay. But I'm going to do null termination first.
Okay.
Okay. So, empty string. You thought an empty string was actually empty, didn't you? It's not. It has one thing in it, which is the null character. Right? So, null characters are at the end of every string that you've ever used. You thought that this was the actual string? Well, no. There is a null character at the end of it, every single time. Null character has an ASCII value of 0. Right? Normally, you don't have to worry about it. So why? Why is there a null character at the end of every string? It's actually fascinating. It comes down to how the C standard library was implemented. It has to do with the C programming language, right? So in C, there's no such thing as an out of bounds error. There is no index out of bounds exception, right? If you have, let's say you have a region of memory, right? Let's say this is your array, and let's say let's say this is index 4, and you attempt to read index 5. What do you think happens in C?
Just reads whatever happens to be next to the array.
It does. It just doesn't. It just reads that cell, which probably has garbage in it, but it might not have garbage in it, right? It doesn't check array bounds. So a lot of the, strings are character arrays, so the solution that they came up with in the C standard library for when am I done processing this string is that, by convention, the last entry in the data structure is a null character. Therefore, if you have an algorithm that's supposed to be processing the string, it knows when to stop. If you don't allocate enough memory for the null character and don't know that it exists, then it may or may not write it in, and if it doesn't write it in, then it will assume that the memory is string until it hits a 0, which honestly is probably going to happen pretty quickly because a lot of memory ends up being zeros, but it will literally just keep reading memory until it possibly exceeds the bounds of its stack frame, and you get an detected stack smash, and you get a segmentation fault, which will kill the program. Seg faults are quite nasty. So a segmentation fault is when the operating system feels an attempted access of memory that doesn't belong to a program, and it's like, you are not staying inside of your little playground, and it shuts it, it kills it down. It kills the process immediately. That's what a segmentation fault is. And yeah, you can get into them pretty easily in C. A really easy way to do that is to dereference a pointer that's just to 0, like an uninitialized pointer, which will have the either a random value or the value 0. If you try to read memory address 0, that belongs to the boot cycle, and the operating system's like, you definitely don't have access to that, and it kills it. Make sense? Okay. Null termination in strings. Anybody want to ask me something? No? About computers? Or something? No?
I like asking people, like, if you were in our shoes, like, what would you tell yourself if you were in, like, our position? What advice would you give us, knowing what you know now?
Well, that's more of a philosophical question, but if I were taking my own class, what would I say to me? Youth is fleeting, don't waste it. Before you know it, your joints will start hurting. And if you haven't, like, you know, if you spend your 20s in idleness and trying to figure your life out, then pretty soon you'll be a miserable, disaffected 30-year-old before you know it, and then, basically my advice is don't waste your 20s in grad school like I did. If you understand at a theoretical and conceptual level programming, then you will be adaptable to the changes that happen in the industry. Although it's definitely true that you're entering a quote-unquote rapidly changing industry. Yes, it's rapidly changing in the sense that the tools that you need 5 years from now are probably going to be different from the tools that you needed 5 years ago, or even today. But it's not like they're completely new, cut from whole cloth, right? It is possible to keep up with things. You just have to put some effort into it, don't forget that programming can be fun, it's important every once in a while to do a personal project for fun and not get bogged down by life and stuff, because the one thing that you probably don't want to end up as is hating your job because you've lost your love of solving strange mathematical problems, which is really the reason you should be in this in the first place, is because you you should be a person who prefers Sudoku and Kakuro to crosswords, right? That should be, you should like puzzles, and you should like number puzzles, right? You don't necessarily even have to be good at number puzzles, just like them, You have to like them in concept. Aside from that, I know it's this is kind of advice that can borders even increasingly on the ridiculous, but consider having a family and children, because there are a lot of people that I know, and it's like a gap that exists in your life that you don't even know is there until it's too late to do anything about it, right? Eventually you will retire. You'll either die or retire eventually, right? And if you retire rather than die, you will want some family. And if you don't put any effort into having one, you won't have one. And that means that you will live out your life, the rest of your life, lonely and cold, right? So I know that there's basically never been a worse time to try to find a relationship. I am aware of that. But it has not diminished in being worth the effort. In fact, it's probably more important than it ever has been. And it's kind of okay to be selfish about it too, you know? Like, what do I mean when I say that? It's like, it's okay to want a family for personal reasons, you know? Because it's a deeply personal thing, right? You shouldn't be afraid of wanting things that make you happy. But you should be careful about distinguishing between happiness and pleasure. Right? Now we're getting very philosophical. What is the good life? Right? Personally, I'm an Aristotelian, which means that I like Aristotle. I think that he was mostly right about most things. And his view of the good life is that a life well lived is a life lived in accordance with virtue. Right? So this is very different from a kind of hedonistic view of life. And I don't mean, like, the term hedonistic is often used in a derogatory or pejorative manner. It's often meant as an insult, but I mean it kind of like, there was an actual philosophical school of hedonism, if you can believe that. Just like sadism comes from a guy, the Marquis de Sade, who had a philosophy that he wrote books on, right? But like, the pursuit of pleasure over the pursuit of personal virtue, like, human beings have a tendency where we are not really satisfied by having the thing. We're more satisfied by the pursuit of the thing than the thing once acquired, right? So it's like, the antidote to that is the cultivation of personal virtue, right? And the Aristotelian sense of virtue is that it's always the golden mean. It's the path between extreme perspectives, right? So, for example, courage is a virtue, right? But you can have too much and you can have too little. Too little and you're a coward. Too much and you're foolhardy, right? The truth always lies in the middle between the extremes. You should be a little bit flexible, because where the truth lies is also dependent on circumstances, right? So how does one cultivate personal virtue? Well, that's a bit more tricky. It's important to know that courage is, it's important to know that something like courage is important, right? A lot of people don't even get that far, if you can believe it, right? A lot of people won't even acknowledge that a virtue is a virtue, which is a bit interesting. And of course, if you don't think that the virtue is a virtue, then how can you possibly attain it, right? But like, you know, how do you acquire it? Well, you have to be willing to let go of parts of yourself that are holding you back, basically. Like, you know, the reason that people kind of stay in modes of existence that are not necessarily even good for them, like, there are many, right? Sometimes it's like, you know, your social environment expects you to be a particular person and actually will, like, enforce social cost against you if you behave differently from how you're expected to behave, right? That's a thing that happens. That's a thing that happens within families quite a lot as well, right? And, you know, part of it is just kind of not giving a shit what people think about you, right? That's very helpful. Although, like, normally that's something that you kind of develop in your late 20s, honestly. Like, it's kind of like, how many people here are under 25? Yeah, really, it's kind of an older group, actually. So, if you're under 25, basically, your brain's not yet set, right? You're still kind of in the process of rapid brain change, which has two effects. It means that, like, if you want to learn a language, you should do so before you're 25. But also, you'll think slower than someone who's fully myelinated. There's an actual, like, physical process by which, fatty coating wraps your neurons, increases the speed of your synapses, but it also kind of sets them in their position a bit more. Like, it's not true what they used to think, that, like, the brain never changes once you're an adult. That's not true, and anybody who ever thought so was foolish, right? Because it's obviously, you know, contrary to observed reality in any period of history, right? You know, basically, once you're kind of getting towards your late 20s, you should stop caring so deeply about what people think of you, because you're set now. You are what you are, so just be who you are, right? And if anybody doesn't care for who you are, then to hell with them, basically. It's, you know, normally, going from a state of, you know, going from whatever state you were in to a state of a higher degree of virtue requires something remote, something approximating a religious conversion, normally. If it not to, like, an actual organized religion, then to some kind of system of philosophy, right? Like, there are good and bad systems of thought. You should try to find a good one, right? Because a bad system of thought will be highly detrimental in the long term. You know, yeah. It's gonna be a rough decade coming up.
Do you think so?
Yeah, the country's basically bankrupt. Like, you may have seen in the news a couple of days ago, the Liberals walked away from pharmacare, right? Only reason they would do that is if we were bankrupt. So it's not going to be very pleasant around here in this country for the foreseeable future. So if you don't have something, like, if you don't have some kind of, you know, philosophical basis, if you don't get something to stand on, then, you know, you'll be swept away in the tide. Probably end up moving to the States or something. But, you know, we'll see if the States manage any better than we do. Like, probably they will, because they're a lot more rich, but, yeah, like, if your goal is to remain in Canada, like, you need to develop some depth of character, or that's going to be given to you by circumstances against your will, right? It's gonna get worse before it gets better. So, you know, you should be thinking about knuckling under. That's kind of where I am at right now. Like, you should think about, you know, becoming resilient to the things that are going to be thrown at us. Because, you know, if you think inflation is bad now, just wait till those tariffs actually hit, right? Yeah. And like, pretty much everybody in this room is going to have to like learn to live with a housing situation that like your parents or grandparents would consider like deeply substandard, right? Like, it's still possible to purchase property, but you basically have to buy a wreck, and you should be willing to fix it, right? Like, there are some real horror stories out there, and probably, you know, a house that someone was murdered in is still a house, right? You have to, like, to survive, you're gonna have to be willing to do stuff that other people aren't willing to do, you know? Yeah, I don't know. That's it. That's all I've got. But hey, at least video games exist in this era of history, right?
At least we've got that.
Yeah. At least we've got video games. Yeah. Aside from that, it's just like, you know, attend to the basics. Like, my philosophy with respect to life is like kind of similar to my philosophy with respect to like something like this. The basics are actually the most important things you do. So like, brush your teeth, right? Go to bed on time, eat breakfast, right? That stuff actually does matter, and I know I sound like everybody's dad when I'm saying this, but like, you should, like, those small things, once corrected, will allow you to correct greater things, right? It has a kind of, it builds on itself. And like, you know, getting enough sleep is actually an element of that virtue that I was talking about earlier, right? So like, when it comes to virtue, it's like, yes, you know, figure out, try to figure life out, but also like, attend to the details of life, you know, because, you know, everything grows from that. So, yes, and have children, because we're not having enough children in this country. All right, I think that's about. I mean, if you can, you know, et cetera, but if you have the ability and opportunity to have children, have as many as you possibly can. That's my idea anyway. Yeah. Okay. Tomorrow, JavaScript review. Next week, exam review generally. Week after that, exams. I will try not to absolutely crush you with the exams, but it's going to be a bloodbath.
That's what I've heard from other students.
Yeah, like, I'm kind of powerless to stop it. It's like, I would have to, in order for it to not be a bloodbath, I would have to set an exam that was so easy it would be insulting to you, to me to set in front of you. So, the exams are going to be a bloodbath, but don't worry about that because, you know, there are supposed to be 40 people in this room right now, right? So, when I say it's going to be a bloodbath, I don't necessarily mean people in this room, although coming to class is not necessarily, it certainly does not guarantee passing the exam, but it certainly helps. Study, do your work, keep your head down, try to do well in your classes, get the degree, try to get a job that's half decent, try to not to work as gig work for too long, see if you can get into a real job as fast as possible. Find someone to share your life with, have children, work until you retire with your children who should at that point be having children and if they're not, it's time to smack them upside the head, get to work. I brought you into this world expecting grandchildren. If you're not providing, then you've broken the contract here. So, then, live out the remainder of your existence, try to keep them from putting you in a home, if you can, try living where you are for as long as possible, because, if you have dementia or anything like that, as soon as you go in the nursing home, you're probably dead within 2 years. So try to stay out of nursing homes if you can. And I will leave you to your particular religious systems for what you think about the afterlife. So yes, that's it. Have good lives, kids.
Thank you, that was very thorough.
Yeah.